Mark Dapitan, and I'm in the Digital Generation Ministry. Let me just share to you a little bit of story. I started the ministry way back 2020, campaigning on digital awareness, on or telling about the digital addiction that is what is happening not just in the Philippines but all over the world. I was inspired with the book by Brad Huddleston, the Digital Cocaine book, and I was inspired by that to advocate. But the it was my life story that I was once a digital addict and became a campus ministry, and later on I was called to have this because during my first starting ministry, during my digital addiction, it was just computer, and then I said to myself when I was turning around with that digital addiction, as I've said to myself, if this computer gadget will be put into cell phones, because I have cell phone later a few years, so 20 10 15 years ago, it was 5110. There's no games there. I was envisioning that when computers will be there in the cell phone, or the games will be there will be more addicts, or there will be more problems on identity. That is why when God called me 2020, that was the start of the campaign. And almost now 6 years, I'm campaigning on digital awareness, telling schools, communities about the danger of going digital. I am not against it. I'll be sharing to you about it, but there's a deeper problem that we need to address with. Let me begin my talk. Let me ask you first this question. What culture do you belong to? Most of us immediately think of nationality. We say, I'm a Filipino. Others would say, I'm American. Or you could answer to the chat, you're Korean, you're Japanese. Every culture has its own identity. Filipino culture teaches about po, opo, respect of elders, hospitality, family-centered, bayanihan. These values shapes how we think, behave, and relate to others. American culture often emphasizes freedom, independence, innovation, and personal achievements. Japanese culture values honor, discipline, and respect, harmony within society. Each culture shapes the people who grow up in it. But today, something has changed. This is now another culture that almost everyone carries in their pocket. It is not defined by geography, it is not limited by language, it is not controlled by national borders. I call this a digital global culture that all over the world we could relate into it. Digital global culture. Think about it. A teenager in Davao City, a student in New York, someone in Brazil, another in South Korea can all laugh at the same meme, watch the same TikTok or the TikTok trend, listen to the same song, follow same influencer, use the same emojis, and imitate the same dance challenge all within minutes. The smartphone has become one of the greatest culture distributors in history as of today. Before, culture was primarily learned from parents, grandparents, schools, churches, and local communities. Today, culture is increasingly learned from algorithms. The phone has become more than a communication device. It has become a culture classroom or cultural classroom. Every scroll teaches something. Every video tells us what is beautiful, what is funny, what success looks like, what relationship should be, what happiness should be or should feel like. And after a thousand of videos, something begins to happen. Culture begins to shape identity. Because identity is formed by repeated stories. Let me repeat that. Because identity is formed by repeated stories. The voices we hear most consistently eventually shape the voice we believe about ourselves or about others. If the digital world constantly say your values depends on your followers, the more likes, the more views, we begin believing popularity equals worth. If it says you must always look perfect, appearance becomes identity. If it says you need to go viral to be mattered, or they call this generation the 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 self love generation. You need to go viral to be mattered, to be loved, to be connected. Attention becomes purpose. And I've been to places that their definition of their group is in their followers. The digital culture is not simply changing our habits. It is shaping our hearts. It is forming our identity. This is why we must pay attention. The issue is not that technology is evil. It's not. Technology is a tool. And I think Pastor later, JP will tell us more about that. The real question is now, who is discipling us? Or who is discipling this generation, this digital generation? Because every culture disciples. The digital world is constantly asking, who are you? And then it offers an answer. It will give us an answer. Sometimes it becomes our profile and we perform on it. You are your performance, you are your popularity. But as followers of Christ, our identity does not begin with the screen. Our identity begins with our Creator. The digital culture says, create yourself. The gospel says, receive the identity God has already given us or given in Christ. The digital culture asks, how many people approve of you? More likes, more views, more followers. But Jesus asked, will you follow me? So the challenge is not to escape digital world. The challenge is to enter it with Christ-centered identity. Because if we don't know who we are in Christ, the digital culture will gladly tell us who we should become. And that is alarming. But if our identity is rooted in Jesus, then we can engage the digital world without being consumed by it. Instead of allowing the culture to shape us, God can use us to influence the culture. Here's the question for all of us. Is my phone merely a tool that I use? Or has it become a primary culture that is shaping who am I? This identity and orality, I framed this with the beginning to understand why digital content is compelling. Why how it shapes identity through oral and visual storytelling. How Christians can intentionally disciple in that space. Later part. The digital world is not just changing how people communicate. It's shaping how they belong, believe, and become. Let me ask you, what was the first thing you look at when you woke up this morning? Or can you guess, what are people looking when they wake up in the morning? Most will answer, Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Then ask, why? Why is it? Why is it compelling to look at it first? I'll answer, because that's where people are today. Not just physically, but emotionally they are. Socially they are in that space. Mentally they are. And even spiritually we are in that space. The new gathering 20 years the new gathering place, or 20 years ago, people gathered in markets, in basketball court, churches, schools, play area. Today, People gathered on group chats, TikTok, Facebook, Discord, YouTube. The digital world has become a new marketplace, the new village, the new classroom, the new storyteller. It appeals to our senses. Let me just give a 5 senses that appeals at the digital appeals. One reason digital content has become so powerful is that it stimulates imagination through almost all of our senses. Think about food vloggers. I think most of us watch or have already watched one video vlogger or food vlogger. You don't actually taste the food, yet you almost can. Why? Because creators intentionally engage the senses. Like you see the beautiful food as being prepared. Even in the commercial, the slow motion of the pizza with the cheese that pulls, with the perfect lighting, their videos that is point of view, their travel reels on the site, their perspective, on the perspective that we could imagine. The sound, the sizzling steak that is being cooked, the crunchy fried chicken, the coffee that is being poured, the rain sounds, the whispers in the atmosphere. Even in a video, we could, or even in the, we could hear the sound of every sound that is being shown in the video. We taste through imagination. We could not taste it in digital, but the taste we could imagine.
Dito na lang ako. Bakit?
The creator says, imagine how crispy this is. Immediately, your brain feels in the experience when a vlogger tastes the food. The storyteller also smells the food. And you could already smell the garlic in that video. You can't, hindi mo ma-smell, but you can smell it through imagination. As immediately your brain tells you how that smells like or how it smells. Even emotions, when you see on videos, families laughing, you begin to have emotions. Friends eating together, someone crying, a proposal, have you watched a proposal on video and you have that emotion to be glad, to be joyful? A graduation speech, a graduation of someone whom you know, even a worship moment, you have that emotions, especially when the song is your favorite sometimes, or maybe the song impacts you. You have that emotion, you sense it, or they call it the sixth sense. Digital content does not just show information, it creates experiences. This is where orality becomes important. People no longer simple read information that is long. These experience stories, they watch, they listen, they imitate. They are now hooked onto that because of that neuroscience of dopamine or what we call happy hormones. We are living in an oral digital world. People often think orality means people who cannot read. It's not. Actually, orality means people primarily learning through stories, conversation, observation, senses, repetition, shared experience, arts. Today, TikTok has become an oral platform also. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook Stories, people are learning through watching, through listening, through imitating, not through reading so much books, but we have now digital books also. How many people read manual before using an app? Or even when you use your phone, have you read your manuals on how to use your phone? No. You watch the YouTube about the manual, how could it be used? Almost nobody. What do? We search how to use it. We even how to fix something on motorcycle, home. We watch videos, tutorial. We imitate. Even education has many lectures on YouTube. And that's reality. Now let me shift to identity, digital identity. With orality, digital identity. Identity has always been shaped by stories. The question is, whose stories are we believing in today? We begin to think, this generation, whom are they following the stories? Digital culture constantly tells us, you are followers, you are likes, you are your appearance, you are your achievements, you are your aesthetic, you are your contents, you are your algorithms. Especially the dopamine on neuroscience, we love that algorithm or the happy hormones. And this generation, look at it, find it. Virality today becomes more important than integrity. Let me read that again. Virality becomes more important than integrity today. Instead of asking, who did God created me to be? Many will ask, what version if of me gets more views, gets more likes? Our biblical identity, surely we talk about in Genesis, we are created in God's image. In Psalm 139, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Ephesians 2 verse 10, we are God's workmanship. 2 Corinthians 5:17, we are new creation. Our identity is received from Christ, not created by culture, but our identity is received from Christ. Now, why Christians must enter digital spaces? Because the digital world is here now. Yet the digital world is dangerous. That's part of the campaign of our ministry. We go to schools campaigning on it. We could not escape the reality that we are now on a digital landscape. That's why we go also to churches. We campaign on this and tell this about digital identity that is the world forming even in our church. But when we look at it in a Bible perspective, the digital world is dangerous. Yes, and even in the Bible, in the New Testament, the Church of Corinth, or so was Athens during the time, or so was Rome when Paul entered them. He didn't avoid the culture on that. Yet he engaged with the culture. Apostle Paul, engaged with the culture that somehow it's dangerous. Yet in Acts 17, Paul understood their stories before presenting God's story. Now, the mission begins with understanding culture. Not condemning it, but to understand culture. Our digital mission, we don't ask, how do we escape digital? We ask, how do we disciple people there? Young people are already there, or we in this generation today are there. Now, even today, we are using digital. We simply need to meet them there, or even, should I say, here in the digital space. I'll just give some practical, maybe I think Pastor JP could emphasize more on the how the practical things and even what is the landscape on digital space. How could we have missions? Let me just give 5 viewpoints on an application. Listen before, that's number 1, is listen before speaking. Especially when election comes, there are many voices who will speak during election. That's why listen before speaking, observe trends, ask why they mattered, understand what people are searching for. Second is, tell better stories. Yes, we need to tell better stories with our own language. Jesus rarely began with an argument. He doesn't want to fight the arguments of doctrines, but he began with stories on telling, or even in preaching, he began some stories or stories that connects with people whom he is being shared. Truth transforms. Number 3, become a faithful digital in presence. I think Pastor JP could share that also. Number 4, point every story to God's story. In conclusion, the digital world is not simply a technology issue. It is an identity issue. Every scroll is shaping someone, or even a group, or even a church today. Every story is discipling someone. Every video on digital landscape is teaching someone how to live. The question is not whether young people are being discipled. They already are. They already are being discipled. Maybe the question is, who is discipling them? As followers of Jesus, let us become faithful storytellers in a digital generation landscape. Not chasing algorithms, but pointing people to the one who gives lasting identity. Because in a world asking, who am I? Jesus tells the answers, come, follow me.